In this class we are going to use transform parameters to animate a simple object and to create a bouncing ball. To do so, we are going to use some of the 12 principles of animation in order to give meaning and semblance of reality to our graphic element. First of all, we start with creating an ellipse using a shape layer. This is the ball we are going to animate in a short while. Before starting into animating our ball, I want to introduce you to the basic transform parameters available for each layer. You can open the transform parameters through here. The transform parameters are anchor point, position allows us to move the element on the x and y axis, scale is a percentage for the x and y dimensions, rotation measured in degrees, and finally opacity, the percentage of transparency of our layer. We can recall the transform parameters by keyboard shortcuts. For the anchor point, press A on the keyboard. For the position, press P on the keyboard. For the scale, press S on the keyboard. For the rotation, press R on the keyboard. For the opacity, press T on the keyboard. We can as well open up more than one transform parameter using keyboard shortcuts. For example, if I press Shift P, I will open the position parameter without closing the already open ones. This way I can open exactly the parameters that I need to work. Another useful shortcut is to open up the animated parameters. To enable animation, we must click on the stopwatch next to the parameter. This action will create a keyframe that will allow us to control the animation of the values of a parameter. By animating a parameter, I can simply move on my timeline and change the values. The software will calculate both the spatial and temporal interpolation to generate the transformation in between. By pressing spacebar, I can review the animation quickly. Once I have animated parameters, I can close the list, and by pressing U on my keyboard, I can quickly call up all animated parameters in that layer. By clicking on the stopwatch again, we can delete all the animation we have done so far. Now let's start working on creating the animation for our bouncing ball. First of all, we have to create the basic animation, in this case the movement on the Y position. We are going to open up the position parameter and move our ball to the top of the frame. We activate the animation by clicking on the stopwatch and we move forward in time. Now we can move the ball to the bottom of the frame in order to create the first part of our movement. Now we have to consider the specifics of the movement we are going to generate. Our ball will bounce on its bottom, so we are better move the anchor point to the bottom of the shape. Using the pan behind tool, we can move our anchor point without losing our animation on the position. We will just need to adjust the endpoint in order to make it exactly at 1080 pixels. Now we are going to create the different bounces. Every time the ball is going to bounce, it will have less momentum, so its height will be lower and the time between bounces will shorten as well. So let's create the different bounces on our timeline. The second step is to give the ball a material feel. Thus we will apply a squash and stretch principle to it, by animating its scale at the moment of the impact on the ground. It's important to change the x and y values of the same amount in order to keep the same area for the ball, even with a different shape. So let's apply all the transformations, like before, making the deformation smaller each time. Now we should work on the timing of our animation. This can be done using the graph editor we saw in a previous class. In the graph editor, I can control the temporal interpolation of my animation, as well as I controlled the spatial one from the viewer before. First of all, I'm going to open only my position and to separate the two dimensions x and y. We can see the x animation in the red line and the y animation in the green one. We didn't change the values in x, so we are going to delete that animation and keep only the y. Starting from the beginning of our animation, we set the first keyframe as linear by clicking here. This will make the ball move at constant speed at the beginning. Then we move to the second keyframe, select it and right-click to open the animation menu. Here we are going to select keyframe interpolation in order to change the temporal interpolation of the specific keyframe. We are going to set it to Bezier in order to be able to manage its in and out speed independently. Now let's make the animation curve steeper here. This way we will make the ball faster before and after hitting the ground, thus simulating a bounce. At the next keyframe we are going to select a different temporal interpolation by making it continuous Bezier. We can do it from this button here by right-click on the keyframe and selecting Keyframe Assistant Easy Ease or by pressing F9. This mode enables a slow in and slow out, which will make our ball movement smoother when at its apex point. We are going to apply the same kind of animation to all of our keyframes in order to repeat the bouncing pattern. Now we can see our complete bouncing animation.